Finn's good. We're good. Traveling with Finn, and we're here with my guest at the Golden Com podcast, Ethan Wayne. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks, Jason.
I appreciate it. So, Ethan, we've known each other for a while and been trying to do this, and what more appropriate time to have a conversation right next to the Wild Goose.
That's right.
When you hear Wild Goose, what do you think of?
Well, when I was born up in the San Fernando Valley, but my father had just bought a World War II minesweeper that he brought down here to Newport Beach to have converted to, for pleasure use. And the name of that boat was the Wild Goose, and so this bar restaurant next door was named after that boat that was somewhat legendary here in this area. And so, my parents lived up in the San Fernando Valley, but right around the time I was born, they made that, big boat decision, and they made the decision to get out of Los Angeles and to live down here in Orange County. And so when we came down here in, I think, 64, it was a pretty small town. We weren't on any news things. The freeway didn't run down here. It was just, people came in the summer and they didn't really stay all winter. It was a great, great town.
64, do you mind me asking, how old are you in 64?
2.
You're 2.
Yeah.
So you're really here almost your entire memory life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where'd you grow up? What neighborhood?
My father bought a home in Bay Shores. So that's where I grew up. But while that home was being, remodeled, we lived at the Newporter Inn, which is now the Hyatt Newporter over here. It was a Del Webb development. And, back in the day, there was nothing. I mean, it was the only thing that was out there off Jamboree. There was that. There was Ford Aerospace and a cement plant off Jamboree and MacArthur. So it's just, it's hard to describe to people now what it was like. We were surrounded by orange groves and strawberry fields, and if you're a kid and you had a bike, you could go anywhere. The Corona del Mar, the Crystal Cove area was a horse ranch. You could board a horse there or rent a horse and ride in the hills of El Morro and Crystal Cove, or ride down and go in the, in the ocean. Just like a Steven Spielberg idyllic small town situation. And it was a place my father came, I think from the time he was in high school till he actually moved down here, he frequented this area. And I think as legend has it, he was body surfing down here, had a football scholarship at USC. It was a big day. He went over the falls, separated his shoulder by hitting the sand, and lost his football scholarship. And that's what drove him to Fox Studios to get a job as a prop man's assistant. And that's where he met John Ford. And that's who he worked for as a prop man's assistant, as a prop man, as a grip, as a sound guy, as a bit player, as a stunt man, and, finally, as an actor.
Made a few movies.
Yeah.
How many?
Well, I couldn't tell you.
Is it 100?
I think it's around 169.
Oh my God.
And then, there's sort of titles that have disappeared. I have to go back and look at the wall in the museum. I've forgotten now, but it's around 170 films that we have up there, leading roles in film.
Well, that's a great intro. Great intro to the man, your father, John Wayne. And specifically, Ethan, I'd love to hear, you're the CEO of John Wayne Enterprises. Mm-hmm. And I believe John Wayne has several activities going that connect to the enterprise. You have foundation. Mm-hmm. Like, talk about that.
Yep, we have John Wayne Enterprises, which is for-profit, and then we have the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, which is obviously not-for-profit.
Okay, great. And then also, why don't we get into this now? You have something at Dallas-Fort Worth that I've been there, and it was at the stockyards.
Yeah, in the Fort Worth stockyards.
So if you haven't been to the stockyards, can you explain what that is?
Sure.
What is a stockyard?
Fort Worth stockyards is the area where they would, bring all the livestock in to auction them off and then process the beef or the pork. So there were giant pens to hold the cattle, and these great old brick buildings where they'd, do all their activities. And it was, as that shifted to other locations, it became a place that people would go down and drink and have a good time at. There's a couple steakhouses and Billy Bob's Honky Tonk is there, world's largest honky tonk. So it was kind of a place that was there forever. People knew it. And a couple of years ago, a developer went out there and started the process of redeveloping that property, but trying to maintain the original feel of the stockyards. And that's a guy named Craig Cavalier in Majestic Development. And they've done an amazing job of revitalizing the Fort Worth stockyards and bringing some more people down to experience Western lifestyle. And I think their goal is to make the stockyards sort of the epicenter of Western life. Okay. By attracting the best brands and the best experiences that you can have related to, horses, apparel, entertainment, music. It's all going to be there in the stockyards. We got there because I have a friend named Patrick Gotch, and he owns RFD TV and now the Cowboy Channel and the Cowgirl Channel. But at the time, we were exploring locations to put up a John Wayne museum. We had a significant amount of memorabilia, and it seemed like there was a lot of interest from people who wanted to see it. So we did pop-ups. We did one at Opryland in Nashville, and that went pretty good. And we did another one in Las Vegas during the National Finals Rodeo. And that's where we got a lot of real excitement. And Patrick Gotch was there. He came and he looked at it. It was presented well. And he said, I know where this has to be. And I'm going to bring this guy, Craig Cavalier, over to meet you. And we're going to talk to you about bringing an actual exhibit to the Fort Worth stockyards. And, we met, and I went down to the stockyards, and Craig showed us the plan for sort of the revitalization of the stockyards. And it was a bold and aggressive plan. And it wasn't superficial. It had soul. They really found a way to embrace Western culture and deliver it to people the way that I experienced it as a young man. It was high quality with a lot of integrity, and my vocabulary is weak, but it's an elevated experience. Mm-hmm. And it's really part of our, it's Americana. It's part of our heritage, the cowboy. So we went down there and we got a space. I think we've got about 14,000 feet there, and we built John Wayne, an American Experience exhibit. And we also have a retail store there, which kind of changed our business because John Wayne Enterprises has always just been a licensing company. And when we got down there, we realized we had to compete with some of the largest Western brands that are available. And so it helped us elevate our game. And so we've gone from a licensing company to, a company that we've turned into a brand. We produce our own product now. And we have a storefront there and an online store, and you know that because you helped us redevelop our website. So you know more about it than I do.
So let me double click on the brand.
Yeah.
Because that is very interesting to me. I think it'll be interesting to others. So what is your vision for the brand of John Wayne as the CEO of John Wayne Enterprises, which now has an American Experience, it has a foundation, it has a licensing arm? What's the vision of the brand of a John Wayne?
I think you could probably just go back. For me, I kind of need a mission. I kind of need something to go off of. So for John Wayne Enterprises, the mission is to preserve and protect John Wayne's name, image, and likeness by associating the John Wayne brand with products and experiences that embody the spirit of John Wayne and give back to the community. And that was, basically developed partly by my brother Michael, who passed away before I took over, and myself and Amy Shepard, trying to figure out how are we going to, what do we do with this brand? Because my brother Michael had run it from the time my father died until he died in 2003. So we sort of ended up running it, but weren't working our way towards running it. So we thought we'd organize it and turn it over to someone to run. And, for various reasons, we never turned it over to anybody to run. And there is a need for licensed product, and there's a market for licensed product. But when it's your father and it's somebody that you love and you care about, I thought there was room for us to create some of our own product. I always thought of him as a brand. I can look at Carhartt or Filson or Ralph Lauren, and I see John Wayne in the roots of those brands. You know, handsome, rugged, independent, reliable, you know, all the things that you want associated with those brands John Wayne embodies. And so we just went to work trying to create product that his fan base or people appreciated, and we try to put a little bit of him in everything that we do. And it's, you know, it's been a learning process, but I'm feeling pretty good about how it looks right now.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of John Wayne, and I've known you for a while, you know, a few words come to my mind. One is American.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always found it fascinating. His relationship with the military was really tight, although he never served in the military.
Right.
Yeah. So why was it that he was so? Because the military adored him.
Well,
I've seen old clips of that.
You know, he was a patriot. He loved this country. You know, he got to live the American dream. He was he grew up in humble environment, and he was not a lazy person. You know, he didn't start out as an actor in the film business. He started out as a prop man's assistant, and he worked in. You know, it was less segregated, I think, back in those days, less unionized, and you had the opportunity to be a useful guy. You know, you could work on lighting, you could work on sound, you could work as an extra, you could work as a stuntman, you could be a production assistant, you could help, and he did, and he became known as a guy that you could count on on a location, right? Which is kind of a rugged environment back in those days. You're making a Western film, or you're making a seafaring, you know, adventure over in Catalina, and somebody says, "Hey, I don't want to jump off the yardarm into the storming, windy, gray, cold ocean." John Wayne would go up there and do it. Okay. You know, so he proved himself as a valuable asset to John Ford, who was a significant director back in the day. And then, you know, slowly over time, he had the opportunity to get in front of the camera. And I think a lot of people know this story, but he was hired at 21 to be the star of a big movie called The Big Trail. And they didn't want an actor for that part. They wanted a big outdoor rugged guy who could see people through an adventure, right? Moving west. And he embodied all those things. He was a big, handsome, gregarious, intelligent, courageous, fun-loving, compassionate person who was generally always in good humor, right? Liked to have fun with people, always had a smile on his face. There was the potential for danger if you pushed him over into that side of, you know, his personality. But in general, he was a very happy and kind and easygoing, humorous personality to be around. And I think that's a pretty American personality. We have the capacity to stick up for ourselves, but in general, we'd prefer to be friendly and have fun.
And humble, because what I heard was that there was really no task beneath him while he was starting out.
Correct.
Right. Now, here's an SC football guy on scholarship who is gregarious and jumping off rocks and separating his shoulder. And so he can't play football anymore. And he goes down and he starts doing the grunt work at studios and probably gets noticed. That's what you're saying.
You know, I think talking pictures were new. That was a burgeoning industry. Think of Los Angeles in the 20s. You know, think of Newport Beach in the 60s. you probably get Los Angeles in the 20s. The valleys are full of agriculture, and you can smell the orange blossoms, and there's strawberries growing, and there's the beach, and there's, people are living in little ranchettes, and the film business is bringing some prosperity to the area. Mulholland's up there snaking the water from everybody, bringing it down to the city. It's an interesting time. It's a really interesting time. And it must have been a magical place to live and work at that time, and to go through the Depression and not make a lot of money, but to be employed and to have something to do. I think that was a pretty unique situation, and he didn't want to give it up.
Well, this is great stories. Maybe one or two more if you have time. The Gold Handle Coffee company that you've got, one of your offsprings.
Yep.
Where does that fit? In the enterprises?
That's in the enterprise side, yeah. So and most everything has some type of give back to the Cancer Foundation. Sure. So I think we go from, some deals will give like 3% back to the Cancer Foundation, all the way up to 33% give back to the Cancer Foundation.
But this gold cup.
So this gold cup. Most of the things that we do are related to just life with my dad, right? So he liked to get to work early, and you'd get there before the sun came up, and you'd sit there with the director and have a cup of coffee and talk about what was going to happen. And then as soon as there was light, you were working. So for me as a kid, we'd have those styrofoam cups, and my dad would have black coffee, and I'd get one, and I could put milk in it and a couple of those cubes of sugar, those old sugar cubes. And, you'd be sitting down there in Mexico waiting for the sun to rise out somewhere pretty remote, with a bunch of cowboys and livestock and, stuntmen, wranglers, grips. It was like being on a roughneck crew or something, back in the day. It was a great part of my childhood. So I think of things that are appropriate for my father. He'd start out the day with coffee, and he'd end the day with a sip of bourbon with his buddies talking about what they were going to do tomorrow. And then it was home, shower, read the script, fall asleep. He'd fall asleep with the script on his chest every night that I remember.
That's good times. Memories.
Yeah, good memories.
Memories.
And they're old. I'm in my 60s now, and he died when I was 17. So whatever memories you're getting from me, they're a young boy's memories. Maybe I have good memories from age 10 to age 17.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And then, time probably distorts some of those. So I'll try to be honest about it, but
you've done a good job. Well, I'd love to have you back. That was terrific. And I think there's a lot of room for those values and characters of cowboys.
Well, it's funny.
John Wayne.
There's always room for cowboy values, right? Those are just traditional American values. And in the 60s, we strayed from them, and it seems like we came back, and it seems like we're experimenting again, moving away from them. And I think people are seeing that they don't work, right? Life isn't fair, and people do put out, different amounts of horsepower. There's two guys sitting there, one works harder than the other, and the one that works harder is gonna get more. He's gonna be smarter. He's gonna be more equipped to handle more responsibility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that goes down the line. As much as we want everything to be fair and equal, it just isn't. I think we need to, I think it was Joe Rogan said it really well. And if you come from a team sport background, which John Wayne did, he was a football player, if you really want the team to get better, you've got to get the worst guys on the team, and you got to bring them up. And so I think as a society, we need to go to work on that, right? We're deficient in some areas, and we need to get into those areas and help lift those people up and equip them with the tools they're going to need to face life, like you would if you were raising a child. But we need to do that with communities that don't have that support, right? There are tough communities out there, and
like the trail.
Yep.
Like the trail.
Yep.
So, all right, man. We'll see you on the trail.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for coming over.
And I think I looked this morning and I didn't see our mission on the new website. We need to add that on there.
Well, that's been documented.
Okay, good.
So, thanks, man. All right. See you, buddy.
Bye.
All right, thanks.